Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Today we will be analyzing The Pains of Sleep by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I'll just make one video on it since I'll have to divide the second stanza into two parts to analyze the poem in two videos, and I imagine that will be painful. As always, first I'll analyze the title, then the poem, stanza by stanza, before discussing a couple other things. In a number of places I'll just be putting forth questions, forcing you to develop your ideas alongside mine. I believe having questions specifically targeting things are more thought-provoking than me giving you all of my thoughts and interpretations. So expect this analysis to be a bit conversational and interactive. Interactive in the sense I invite you to think and share your thoughts and interpretations. But I'd also appreciate if let me know if you prefer this method as well, since spoon-feeding you isn't a smart thing to do and might be detrimental in the long run. Okay, now starting with the title, The Pains of Sleep. Ironic, isn't it? Sleep is supposed to relieve you of pain. What could these pains be? Nightmares, presumably? What's the first thought that comes to your mind regarding the birth of nightmares? What prompts your brain to make you watch nightmares? And could there be anything else that could easily fit into this concept of pains? Since this is a very simple title, there isn't much I can tell you about it, so let's move on to analyzing the stanzas. Just bear in mind one little thing before I start. I'm expecting you to enter a world where you believe in God. Otherwise, I'll have to make a distinction between viewers who believe and don't believe in God, which will do no good and waste our time. Back to where we were. Ere on my bed my limbs I lay. The persona specifies he lays his limbs, he doesn't say he lays. What is the purpose of the specification? Could his limbs represent something? Limbs help in movement, so these limbs could represent thoughts. At the same time, limbs are also heavy, so these limbs could be the heaviness of his deeds. It hath not been my use to pray. In my opinion, the purpose of a prayer is to humble yourself, and it's seen that one humbles himself when he is in need of something. So, when you see the persona is praying and he doesn't usually, if you forget about the title for a second, this instance leads us to deduce he is facing some sort of difficulty. This prayer is further described as, with moving lips or bended knees, showing the persona is doing everything he can to lower himself before a superior force, which we may assume to be God. But silently. The persona does not make a sound. What could be the reason? The pause after this phrase prolongs the silence. By slow degrees. It seems like it took the persona a while to realize his desperate position and turn towards God for help. Perhaps he started praying when things were beginning to go downhill. Now when he's at rock bottom, he prays with moving lips or bended knees, adding a physical element to the spiritual one. My spirit I to love compose. The persona distinguishes between himself and his spirit, highlighting the importance of understanding the difference between your worldly self and your spiritual self. The L in love has been capitalized. What could the reason be? Is it related to divinity? He composes his spirit. What does that mean? Was it a mess? Does this mean his vices and virtues were all over the place before he composes it? In humble trust mine eyelids close. The persona further points out the importance of being humble when you are in the position of seeking, before he highlights the element of trust, bringing forth the possibility he was betrayed. And if at this point, our persona is a wise person who understands the importance of his own deeds, the betrayal could have been from his part, and now he's seeking redemption. With reverential resignation. The alliterative R creates a tone of defeat. This line may indicate the persona lets go of himself to perhaps enter a spiritual world where God will guide him where to go. No wish conceived, no thought expressed. Only a sense of supplication. A sense o'er all my soul impressed, that I am weak, yet not unblessed. If there is no wish conceived, why is he praying? Perhaps he isn't praying to tell God anything. Perhaps he believes God knows all, knows what he wants, and is going through. The persona has perhaps complained and asked for too much up to this point. Now the only thing left is to ask for redemption and offer his soul to God, since he realized this relationship cannot be one-sided. The idea of asking for redemption is complemented by the sibilance, which allows pain to reveal in an auditory fashion. He may consider himself weak by comparing himself to God, who is omnipotent, and although accepts he is on the ground while God is above, he considers himself blessed, proving his humbleness in his thoughts and actions. Furthermore, pause between these two ideas acts as a turning point of thoughts. Since in me, round me, everywhere, eternal strength and wisdom are. What is one thing you can link eternal strength and wisdom to? I'd link them to God. What else could you link them to? Mother Nature, which goes back to God. So it's like a tree, everything links back to God. That's what I think. You could have a totally different theory, which I'd love to read. Thus, through these two lines, the persona highlights the existence of God everywhere, in every being. We are just extensions of God. But yesternight I prayed aloud, in anguish and in agony. The tone and mood completely change as we enter the second stanza, and the pause after these two lines allows the reader to adjust to the somewhat haunting and surely startling imagery, emphasized by the assonance. Why does the persona pray aloud? Does it help get rid of frustrated emotions? Does he think he can't be heard? We're being told about this incident after it is all over, as shown through yesternight. This incident might have been overwhelming for him, and all he wanted to do was concentrate on his prayer, hence we are told about it when it ends. Plus, it would not be wrong to assume the only reason we're being told about this is that his prayer was futile, and he needs someone to complain to. Upstarting from the fiendish crowd of shapes and thoughts that tortured me. Hellish imagery is used to describe the multiple entities that torture the persona. The verb upstarting may indicate the persona did something that he should not have done, something that suddenly tainted his soul with corruption. To me, for some reason the shapes seem black. I don't know how the persona got that reaction out of me. Perhaps because the verb upstart is generally used in a derogatory manner, implying the darkness of things, and fiends themselves are evil. My point is, through all these subtle things, the persona is able to create such vile imagery in the reader's minds. Thus, you are also made aware of the nature of the deeds committed. A lurid light, a trampling throng. Under usual circumstances, light has positive connotations, but the light here seems to be very brutal, as the noun phrase lurid light has been used. Emphasis is brought to it through the alliterative L. What could be the reason for that? And what could this light represent? God? Fires from hell? What do you think? Sense of intolerable wrong. Now you understand what sense the persona was talking about in the first stanza. The guilt of his immorality is gnawing at him, since he is aware he will have to pay the consequences of the intolerable nature of his deeds. I want you to ponder over the importance of the words tortured, trampling, and intolerable used in the stanza. And whom I scorned, those only strong. Why would you scorn someone? For their luck? Their blessings? The blessings might be in the form of love, wealth, health, etc. The persona describes the people he scorned as strong, perhaps indicating they did not ask for anything and were content with what they had and what they got. The persona's weakness was perhaps jealousy, and he acted upon this negative emotion, resulting in the poem we are reading. Moreover, the pauses throughout the stanza give you time to imagine all the horrors the persona faces. Thirst of revenge, the powerless will, still baffled and yet burning still. In my opinion, will over here is actually the opposite of desire. It's the persona's conscience that is unable to do anything, hence it silences itself. While the persona's irrational self acts upon the thirst of revenge since he's lost, wandering, resentful towards his superiors. The repetition of Ilan will still makes it seem like the persona's conscience is stuttering. Do note you'll be reading will still together due to the lack of a pause between the two. Desire with loathing strangely mixed, on wild or hateful objects fixed. The persona uses the phrase strangely mixed, as if desire doesn't generally lead to loathing, as if he is pretending he never knew something like this could have happened. Desire isn't something positive, it's associated with want, not need, so the idea of ungratefulness is prevalent here, which ultimately leads to loathing. Everyone has something to be grateful for, no matter how horrible the situation is. Even the homeless find things to be grateful about, like being alive, having a functional brain, etc. Through the line desire with loathing strangely mixed. The persona may be telling it's better to suppress desires, since they are accompanied by loathing, which itself is very intense, and has the ability to make you do regretful things. The wild or hateful objects could highlight the material, or worldly aspect of the things one yearns for. The verb fixed could suggest one wants things in their subjective form, one is not interested in the spiritual value of deeds, but the material value of things. Fantastic passions. This noun phrase could show the surreal, powerful nature of certain emotions. These passions are most probably negative, lustrous in different manners I believe. We may see he gets passionate as he remembers these passions, seen through the many exclamation marks. Maddening brawl. Although this could be literal, it could also be the tug of war between one's morals and desires, or between the rational and irrational. And shame and terror overall. Through the word all, it's safe to assume the persona talks about the human psyche at this point, not only himself. Perhaps he's also trying to comfort himself by telling himself he's only human, he's weak like the rest. The shame is most probably inflicted by a guilty conscience, while terror is caused by the imagined wrath of God. Deeds to be hid which were not hid. Through this you see something went wrong. It doesn't seem like the persona pondered upon the probability of his deeds coming to light, regardless of his attempts of hiding them, and the confrontation to face if he acts upon his desires. The idea was not hiding his deeds from God, but from the people. His secret is now out in the open, making you wonder, is his guilty conscience making him pray, or the dirty looks he gets? Which all confused I could not know, whether I suffered. These lines reiterate the persona's blindness to the long-term effect of his deeds. His confusion may and lack of understanding of his suffering could have been due to the baffled conscience, no longer playing a part. With a silenced conscience, the pleasures hid the unethical elements of his deeds, and the consequences to come. Or I did, for all seemed guilt, remorse or woe. After a pause, that may indicate a slow realization, the persona now says he knows he suffered, perhaps implying the seed of shame and terror had been sown. It took a while for them to surface. After the description of the passions, we see the aftermath in the simplest of adjectives, giving an insight to the most powerful emotions that can eat up a person. My own or others still the same. Life-stifling fear, soul-stifling shame. The persona groups everyone with him once more, perhaps not only to give himself some sort of consolidation through this, but also to make the reader think about his/her deeds that produce the same emotions he experiences. Through the last line of the stanza, it seems the guilt has reached the persona's core. Now it's not about what people think about him, but what God thinks about him. He may be attempting to highlight the direct impact of material on one's spiritual self. If you're finding this analysis helpful, do consider liking to spread the video to more people. So 2 nights passed, the night's dismay, saddened and stunned the coming day. The way this stanza starts with "so" makes it seem like the persona is talking to you very freely, highlighting the conversational tone he acquires. The repetition of night could emphasize upon the darkness in his life. He talks about how his nights affect the day, presenting you a vicious cycle he cannot escape from. Now my question to you is, why did 2 nights pass like this? Is this number used to show the manifestation of this realization was not too long ago, or something entirely different? What could this number represent? What could it symbolize? Excessive use of sibilants may highlight the pain and torture the persona endures. Sleep, the wide blessing, seen to me, distemper's worst calamity. Sleep is one time a person is at peace. This opportunity has been snatched from the persona, his days and nights seem to be the same. The one thing that's bothering me is the phrase wide blessing. What does that mean? Is the persona saying sleep envelopes one whole, like a big blanket? But the adjective wide is usually used to describe an area. So could he subtly be hinting towards the concept of sleep being a battlefield for him? A perfectly large platform for torture. The use of distemper itself is horrific since it's a noun for a viral disease of some animals, especially dogs, causing fever, coughing, and catarrh. At this point you may even question if the persona is scorning himself by comparing himself to a dog. Before any of you animal lovers say, "Hey, what's wrong with dogs? Are you against dogs now?" I love dogs, but it's insulting to be compared to a dog due to their unhygienic and vile nature. Moving on. The 3rd night, when my own loud scream had waked me from the fiendish dream. Once again, you need to ponder upon the importance of these numbers. The persona invites the readers to experience the auditory dimension of his struggles. The adjectives loud and fiendish help instill fear in the hearts of the readers. There's another thing that's bothering me. It seems the persona is more interested in keeping the rhyme than using the correct lexis. He says fiendish dream, not fiendish nightmare. Don't you find this odd? Why is the content being presented in this manner? The display seems to be more important than the subject matter. Why? Overcome with suffering strange and wild, I wept as I had been a child. Welp, seems like he's so overwhelmed he missed out on the V in overcome. This overwhelmed feeling could represent the persona's conscience pressing down on him. What does the sibilance represent here? Initially wild had been used to describe objects highlighting material success, now it is used to describe the sufferings, making you wonder why didn't the persona choose another adjective. The persona further uses a simile as he compares himself to a child. This seems problematic since children represent innocence, and we know for sure the persona is not innocent. Another thing to note is that the persona seems to have stripped down to his nakedness, for he first humbles himself, now he weeps like a child. And having thus by tears subdued my anguish to a milder mood. The changing of emotions is prevalent here through his tears, reminding one of rain, how the raindrops change the scene, so you can draw a parallel to that. The alliterative M makes you imagine the persona is mumbling. Why is that so? What's the importance of that? If he says his anguish is changed into a milder mood, he categorizes the noun anguish as a mood. Is it a mood though? Such punishments, I said, were due to nature's deepliest stained with sin. Who is he talking to? To himself, I presume. In that case I wouldn't be the persona, but his conscience. What do you think? His morals are now stained, his soul has been corrupted, and he knows no amount of repenting will do any good. The pauses throughout the stanza may show it's getting harder to speak with the passage of time. For I am tempesting anew, the unfathomable hell within. Going back to the rain imagery, the tears seem to be useless with this tempest in his soul. He cries to get rid of these emotions to no avail, for the dark and grieving emotions will forever torment him. Moreover, the persona has used contrasting images of a tempest and hell. Why? The horror of their deeds to view, to know and loathe, yet wish and do. This is the perfect description of immoral lustrous desires, and their consequences, of the persona, and people like him, cowardly bowing to the irrational part of their brains. The disgust he feels is quite apparent through the darkness of these lines, as well as the exclamation mark. He hates to do what he loves since it blackens his soul. Such griefs with such men well agree, but wherefore fall on me? At this point it seems the persona says there are so many sinners like him, who are addicted to sin, and its consequences, and asks why does he have to go through this torturous process? Why is he being targeted? The double wherefore has probably been used for dramatic effect. To be loved is all I need, and whom I love indeed. I think it's safe to say the love he is asking for is forgiveness from God, who inflicts pain upon him in the form of his guilty conscience. Now my question to you is, whom does the persona love? This poem seems to have a happy ending. Yes, the persona didn't get what he wanted, but he highlights a feeling of hope. He says love will save him. There is a possibility he will finally get rid of the anguish he is put through. Just a couple more things, then this analysis is over. You may notice the persona uses rhyming couplets, which are usually used to show harmony, making the use of this method ironic. The poem, as you may notice, is divided into 3, so it's like each stanza represents a night of the 3. The length of each stanza may symbolize the amount of torture the persona endured. The first one is short, he didn't encounter much pain, the second is longer, he encountered more pain, and the third night is a lottery. That's it for this analysis. I hope you liked it. Feel free to share your thoughts and opinions. Take care, bye.